Hello and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick, with the City of Hampton's Communications and Marketing Department. And today we're going to get to know one of our newest city leaders, at least on City Council, a little better. And my guest is Vice Mayor Linda Curtis. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you very much, Robin.
Thank you for coming by today. It's been a little bit of a whirlwind since you were named to council, hasn't it?
It really has been. It's been really, really busy. I was elected on a Friday, and then Saturday I left for a trip that had long been planned. And so I was gone for 2 weeks and then came back and had to really work very hard to get ready for my first council meeting, which was a couple weeks ago.
So, and most people know, I mean, you are not a new name or face to the city. So let's talk about your background a little bit. You were elected 4 times and served as Commonwealth's attorney for how many years?
17. And I was actually in the Commonwealth's attorney's office for quite a few years before that. My association with Hampton started when I was in law school at William & Mary. And I interned in first the Circuit Court for the City of Hampton and then in the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office.
And who was Commonwealth's Attorney then?
Skip Most.
Okay.
And I really fell in love with the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office and really wanted to come back here after I graduated. But I got a job in the Virginia Beach Commonwealth's Attorney's Office. And a few years later, I got a call from somebody in the Hampton office saying, we're looking for somebody. Do you know of anybody good? And I said, well, I'd love to come back. So that was 1982.
Okay.
And I worked in the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office from 1982 until last year when I retired.
Well, now, why being a prosecutor? I mean, and let's talk generically, because I think many people understand Commonwealth's Attorney, but they may not. So you came out of law school and decided that was the direction you wanted to go in, was prosecuting. Why?
Well, there's something really appealing about, first of all, trial work. Commonwealth's attorneys are what other places call district attorneys or state's attorneys.
On TV shows, you would hear them called district attorneys.
That's
usually.
Right. We do the serious criminal prosecution. And it's fascinating work. I mean, in 30 years, I never got bored. Cases are similar, but no two people are alike, and it was always so interesting. And it was really good at the end of an important trial where someone had been convicted of, doing something really dreadful, serious crime. I mean, you really felt like you had done something for your community when you were able to walk away from that. I mean, so it was very fulfilling, it was very interesting, and I really loved the work.
Now, I imagine those were pretty long days sometimes, and it's a very intense sort of work.
Yes.
I mean, anything at that level is intense, but also working with criminals, dealing with victims.
Right.
I mean, that had to be, you had to be really committed to stick with that for as long as you did.
It really does. When I was in the hiring position, when I became the Commonwealth's attorney, I had to look for people who really had a good feel for people, who were empathetic, who were driven, who were very smart, who would be committed and would put the work in, because you don't do it for the money. I can absolutely assure you, it's a labor of love. And we were fortunate. We had a real good staff and people who were really committed to doing that. I had also done a lot of work with victims in a brief period of time that I wasn't a prosecutor. I worked for a victims' rights organization. So, it all kind of came together in the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office for me.
Yeah, and people may not know that within that office is the victim witness coordinator and program.
Right. And I'm very proud. I wrote the grant to bring that program to Hampton. That has remained a grant program through the Department of Criminal Justice Services. But it is so essential, and it made such a difference in the lives of the people that we worked with. So and that was back in, probably 85. I wrote the grant. They were putting money out. They were starting. Virginia Beach, where I had worked, had the first victim witness program, and it was really, I learned a lot from that.
I think that would make quite a difference.
Yeah.
Okay, so you retired as Commonwealth's attorney how long ago?
On February 1st of last year.
So you didn't get to stay retired very long. I mean, technically, I know counsel is a part-time job, but it's
It doesn't feel like it.
you're paid as part-time, but I
Yes.
don't know that it's really a part-time job.
No, I don't think so.
So they plucked you out of retirement. Did you think about saying no? Were you willing to do it?
Well, I had been approached to run for council previously, and at that point said, I'm not ready to do anything like that. So I was approached and asked if I would consider it on an interim basis because the appointment only lasts until the special election, which I understand now has been set in May.
Okay.
And
I figured it would, but I
yeah.
didn't know if the courts had made that call.
It's expensive to set a separate election day, and turnout issues are always a problem if you try to set it separately. So we already have an election in May, and that's when the special election will be to fill the seat that I'm currently occupying.
Well, and let's just talk about that process for a minute, because I know you weren't actually a part of it. You got pulled in, but there have been some citizens and some suggestion that the citizens should have been heard. Well, that is set up. That is what the election in May will do.
That's
and
right.
this is merely what the procedure is set by the state code for how you fill a vacancy that happens without citizens having time. So this gives candidates a chance to declare that they want to run and introduce themselves to the citizens and make their positions known so that there will be an informed citizen election in May. And this is really just a temporary and
It's an interim position. It's a temporary job.
So what made it appealing to you? Obviously, you have a commitment to the citizens and to Hampton, but this is a very different thing than prosecuting the bad guys.
It is very different, but the city has embarked on a course of action really caused by events that have taken place in the city, criminal activity over the last year or so. And, public safety is a big issue right now. And the city, and so I think my background in public safety and my really deep understanding of the community's issues around public safety, I think was what I felt like I could really contribute to the conversation.
So will that be sort of your focus for your for this interim period, or do you have any other particular issues that you want to mention or look into?
Not really. I would say that there's obviously a lot of other things going on in the city. There's economic development. There are lots and lots of other issues. But one of the things that I really like about the current Safe and Clean initiative is that it is trying to deal with a lot of issues in the city, including crime and public safety, in a much more, holistic, with a much more holistic approach. We're looking at it not just from the perspective of put more cops on the street, which is a good strategy and one that.
And it is part of the strategy, of
but
course.
it isn't the only part of the strategy. The strategy goes much deeper than that. It's looking at the relationship between probation and parole and the police, and it's looking at housing, and it's looking at lots of other issues. And I think that's very appealing to me, and I'm really glad to play some small part in that, because I really think that's the kind of thing that will make a difference. I always said when I was Commonwealth's attorney that the mom in the poorest part of town deserved to let her child play in the yard as much as anybody else in Hampton did, in the nicest neighborhoods, in the most upscale neighborhoods that we have. I mean, everyone has that right. And
right, to be safe in their own home.
To be safe in their home,
own
in their yard, to feel like their children are not going to get shot by some drive-by shooter. That's really important to me. That's always been really important to me. So that is my passion. That's been my passion. And with that issue bubbling around in the city, I think that's where I can come in and contribute.
That sounds wonderful. Well, now, we talked about your background a little bit from law school on, but where did you grow up?
I grew up in New Jersey.
Okay. And you went to college?
I went to college at the University of Miami in Florida. I was a radio and television major.
Now, was that part of a pre-law plan, or
No.
did you at some point decide?
No, honestly, this is really the truth. And I've said this to lots of applicants because, I used to talk to young people who would come to apply and they'd say, I always wanted to be a prosecutor. And I thought, really? Really, when I got to the end of college, I wasn't really sure what to do. And I was pretty good at school, so I thought, well, maybe I'll just stay in school for a while and try to figure it out. And I looked into getting an MBA, and I looked at law school, and law school seemed more feasible. So that's what I pursued, and it wasn't really until I had the opportunity to come to Hampton and work in the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office that I discovered really where my passion was.
Well, most people don't know that people who go to law school or become lawyers, most of them aren't trial lawyers anyway.
No,
There's
that's
all
right.
these other things that are open. And law school is what brought you to Virginia.
Right, William and Mary.
And you've stayed?
Yes, I have. I've been here. I lived in Virginia Beach for a few years, but I've been here for really most of my adult life.
So you've had, sort of the end of the Commonwealth's attorney career. What do you see for yourself in the future? What are your passions? What do you want to do? I know you were traveling a little bit in retirement.
Well, I've stayed active. I mean, I haven't, when I retired, I didn't, cease to my community activity. And I'm on a couple of state boards, and I'm on a number of local boards. One of the things I've gotten involved with is Communities in Schools, Hampton Roads. And Communities in Schools is a dropout prevention program, which I think is essential. I mean, but being in a more of a school venue and talking about school issues is new for me. And I find that all really interesting. But it all fits into the same piece of the pie. We want a healthy community. We want an educated workforce. We want our young people to succeed. And we want them to be safe. So it all fits into the same pie.
It does, and those boards allow you to be more on the prevention and community source side, as opposed to just once something bad happens, then you take it from there.
Right. And I did a lot of that while I was working, or I shouldn't say while I was working because I'm still working. But
when you were full-time officially.
Right, when I was working in the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office. But I have continued my board work, and so I've been in the community. I haven't really been just sitting at home drinking my coffee, reading the newspaper in the morning.
Not that you shouldn't be allowed to do that for a little while.
And I have traveled. We have been to, we've taken some trips. All of our grandchildren live up and down the East Coast, and nobody's in the immediate area, so we've had more of a chance to spend time with them. It's nice to be able to go in the middle of the week to a dance recital or a school band concert or something like that. And my husband is also retired, and he was an OBGYN, and so neither of us were very flexible. We did things, but you had to plan long ahead, and so when something came up and somebody's getting an award, we just weren't able to pick up and go. So now it's a little bit more flexible.
That's great. And one other thing I would note is that you came into council immediately involved. This is not something that you were dragged into and you're going to just coast. I mean, one of the things I've noticed is that you are asking questions, you are involved, you are taking this very seriously. Not that anybody wouldn't, but you've really have jumped into this role. Well,
nobody can ever say, people have said lots of things about me, but nobody's ever said I'm unprepared. And that's really a passion of mine too, is to always really know what I'm getting into and to be up on the issues as much as I possibly can. So I'm working very hard to do that.
Well, thank you, and thank you for serving. We appreciate it. I'll speak for the citizens here. It's not an easy job. I've been up close a little bit and learned what all you go through, and it's pretty impressive.
Well, thank you.
That you've stepped in. Is there anything else you want to add about that before we close?
Just that I really hope that we can accomplish something that in this interim period for me, that we can make a difference. I mean, I'm working with a bunch of very committed people. Everybody on council is very committed. They don't always agree, but disagreement is part of our process, and everyone needs to listen to everyone, and that's what I'm looking forward to having the opportunity to do.
That's good. I think it's healthy that we don't agree. We need different perspectives, and really council is a very varied group at this point, more varied maybe than I've seen in quite a while in terms of age and gender and race and perspective and professional careers. So it's good. A strong city needs those diverse voices and perspectives.
Absolutely true.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
And thank you for watching this episode of Round Robin. I hope you've learned a little bit more about our newest council member and our new vice mayor. Thank you.